Well, it's a beautiful Friday, so I'd like to welcome everyone to Maple Creek Middle School, and a special welcome to our dignitaries and guests, and our special guests from Maple Creek, our grade 6-7 Division 13-14 class that are joining us today, so thank you. I'll move right into a bio and an introduction for Minister Moore. Minister Moore is a graduate of the University of Northern British Columbia and University of Saskatchewan. Minister Moore was first elected as a Member of Parliament for Port Moody, Westwood, Port Coquitlam in 2000. At the age of 24, he was the youngest elected Member of Parliament in British Columbia history and has been re-elected in every election since. In 2008, Minister Moore was appointed to the position of Minister of Canadian Heritage and Official Languages by Prime Minister Stephen Harper, becoming the first Minister of Canadian Heritage from British Columbia. After the most recent election, Prime Minister Harper reappointed Minister Moore as Minister of Canadian Heritage and Official Languages, and named him Minister responsible for British Columbia, the youngest regional minister in Canadian history. This past summer, Minister Moore was appointed Minister of Industry by Prime Minister Harper. I'd like to welcome the Honourable Minister, James Moore.
Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for your patience, by the way. Je comprends qu'il y a des ceux et celles d'entre vous qui sont en français immersion. Some immersion students, maybe, maybe not. No, not in the room. There you are. But thank you all very much for your patience. Thanks for being here, and thank you, Principal, for hosting us here at Maple Creek Middle School for this very important announcement. You see over my shoulders, Digital Canada 150, Canada Numérique 150. It was only a couple months ago, our government stepped forward and we launched what's called Digital Canada 150. Why 150? Well, in 2017, you should know as students, in 2017, we're celebrating Canada's 150th birthday. And you know, back in 1867, the time of Confederation, it was never dreamed, frankly, that Canada would survive this far and that we would be as united and strong and going into our 150th birthday. It was actually considered crazy. It was no way this is going to work. We're going to build a railway to British Columbia. We're going to move forward. But people had a vision. They said this country is going to work. We're going to build the infrastructure and we're going to make this country survive. We built a railway all the way across this country. Since then, we've built the Trans-Canada Highway, we've built airports, we've built seaports, we've built all this great infrastructure that keeps Canada, the second largest country in the world, united all across the massive territory that is Canada. So when now you think about 2014 and the next 150 years of Canada, what's the next big piece? Well, I think, and I think a lot of Canadians think, that the next big piece for Canada is digital technology, making sure that we're united as a country and that we all have full access to the digital world that's in front of us. And you know, I graduated high school in 1994. I graduated my elementary school, I finished my elementary school, it was Hillcrest Elementary School in 1989. We didn't have any computers in our classroom. It was a big deal to finish your high school paper on a typewriter. That's what I used. And most of our essays were all handed in handwritten. Seems crazy, right? But today, of course, everybody has laptops, everybody has iPads, everybody has Blackberries and iPhones, and you have them in your classrooms and you're able to use them for all of your basic research. Of course, it's done online, it's all digital now. It's a totally different world. And we as a government, and I think all levels of government, need to work together and respond. That's why it's great to have Doug Horn, your local MLA, who's here as well. We have Michael Wright, who's your local city councillor, who is here. All levels of government have to react to this new reality and make sure that kids have the infrastructure of learning so that they can move forward and be fully integrated members of society, have the full economic opportunities of the future, so that when we celebrate our 250th birthday as a country, we will recognize that we always were ahead of the curve when it comes to technology. You know, it was 20 years ago that the Government of Canada created a program called the Computers for Schools program. And over the past 20 years, more than 1.3 million computers have been refurbished and delivered to schools and not-for-profit learning organizations all across Canada. And last year, here in British Columbia, just in British Columbia, more than 7,400 computers were distributed to schools, libraries, senior centers, youth centers, far off Aboriginal communities that often don't have access to this kind of technology. And these are communities that are now bound together and have access to the infrastructure of computing technology so that they can participate in all that is the digital world. And I'm here today to announce that our government wants to build on that success. So I'm pleased to announce $36 million in new funding to put another 280,000 computers into schools all across Canada. And what does that mean for this school, École Maple Creek Middle School? Well, for you, it means that schools like this one will have computers to learn and to educate, to do research. And what's more important is that you'll be able to equip students, the staff will be able to equip students with the foundation for them to learn and discover in the digital world going forward. This commitment of $36 million in the Computers for Schools program is a commitment that we made as part of our Digital Canada 150 platform. And one of the key platforms, of course, is to make sure that we have this digital technology so that kids have the opportunity to use technology for their school, not for its own sake, but also to be mindful of parts of Canada's history. You build the infrastructure across this country, not for its own sake, but so that you can connect Canadians together. And why do we want to do that? Yes, so that you can learn, but that just trips off the tongue very easily. Why do we want to connect Canadians together? So that we have a better understanding of our own history as a country. And what a perfect day to remind ourselves of that than today. 150th birthday coming up in 2017, but today we recognize the 70th anniversary of D-Day, which is a very important moment, of course, in the Second World War, a very important moment in world history where thousands of Canadians bravely stood forward and served. And that's why we want to build this technology and build this infrastructure all across this country so we have opportunities of learning, so we have opportunities economically, but also so we have opportunities to continue to building our country's unity going forward by understanding our past. So this is a very important moment, and also, so we decide to do this, we build this technology, and we want to make sure that our schools have all the best computers possible going forward. So then as a government, we try to think, well, how ought we do that? Well, we get access to computers that are no longer being used by the Government of Canada, and we need to refurbish them. Okay, so who should do the refurbishing of that? Well, we think students should do that. Young people should get to do that. So we're hiring 1,000 kids on an internship program to come in and to refurbish the computers. So not only do we take the computers that were formerly being used by the government that are no longer being used, we put them back into service, and to refurbish the computers and put them back into service, we have young people doing the work and learning apprenticeship training about how to refurbish and reestablish these computers and then put them back into service. It's a win-win proposition that will only serve to benefit schools like yours, students like you, and future generations of Canadians. And of course, this has all been made possible because of great partnerships that we have, from BC Hydro to Langara College, Capilano University. We have all kinds of great private sector supporters who have engaged with us in this process to make good use of computers so that you as students can make good use of it in securing your future together. So with that, I want to thank all of you again for your patience. $36 million, 280,000 computers refurbished in our schools. Computers for School program has new life in it, and we want to make sure that we stay connected, educated, and digitally inclined for the future. And I know this school and others will benefit greatly from this program. So thank you all for your patience. Thanks for being here, and I appreciate very much your hospitality today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Moore. Next, I'd like to introduce Miriam Waddington. And Miriam has 18 years experience working in the non-profit sector. She's currently the Executive Director of BC Technology for Learning Society, the agency which administers Computers for Schools, the Computers for Schools program for Industry Canada in British Columbia, and is the proud organization that contributes towards the advancement of technology in education, support of youth, work experience, opportunities, and environmental stewardship by delivering a proven, sustainable reuse model. Miriam graduated from Simon Fraser University with a Bachelor's of Arts, holds a Diploma of Human Resources Management from BCIT, and is undertaking leadership development through UBC's Sauder School of Business. She sits on the Board of Directors for the Recycling Council of BC and Canadian Parents for French, Surrey chapter. I'd like to introduce Miriam Waddington.
Thank you very much, Minister Moore, for the announcement. It's so great to hear that we have continued funding, and my colleagues and I across Canada are very excited to continue our work delivering on Canada's digital economy. This means a great deal to us and to our partners and to the recipient schools and nonprofit organizations that we serve. I'd also like to say a very special thank you to Principal Bill Trask for hosting us in this wonderful school today. And I appreciate the cooperation particularly, as we know this has been a trying time for schools with all the job action going on, so thank you for that thing. It's always really nice to get out of my office, appreciate that very much, so thank you. But to come here and see how the computers we've provided are impacting your education and what you're learning and how you're learning and how this is going to help connect you to your future and to your peers moving forward. And I was really excited when I was doing some research about this, but looking at the district's motto, which is Education for Life. So at BC Technology for Learning, our mission statement is to, I should know my mission statement. We want to support education, youth, and the environment by refurbishing technology, and that really aligns both with Education for Life and our educational values, which are to ensure that all students have access to technology in whatever place it is that you're learning. So we're in a school right now, and that has always been the primary mandate of Computers for Schools. And, but for us to achieve Education for Life, CFS has had to look beyond the standard K-12 model and support a wide array of other learners, including those who needed access to computers in public libraries, First Nations communities in those schools, and nonprofit organizations whose purpose is to educate, train, and retrain members of the public. So we've done a lot of work to support various literacy groups around the province, the John Howard Society, and the Neil Squire Foundation. But what's really important is that learners exist across age, gender, race, ability, and income status, because you are learners and you are everywhere. So for 20 years, Computers for Schools has been diligently working towards making Education for Life a reality, to ensure that the tools of the 21st century are available to everyone in the places where you meet. And we have been successful, as Minister Moore said, to the tune of 1.3 million computers across Canada. But more can still be done, because 20% of families with low-income designation do not have a computer in the home, and many of these same families have a learner in the home. Author William Gibson noted that the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed. Computers for Schools has worked to make technology present, not only in our present, but our future, and to make sure it is evenly distributed. It has done so by extending the useful life of that tech and placing it in schools and community centers across the country. Computers for Schools has always provided opportunity for all of us to do more. More donations into Computers for Schools means more distribution back out into the schools and nonprofit environment. It means better partnership opportunities, it supplies more work experience opportunities for youth, and it provides better future employment opportunities as well. At the same time, through happy coincidence, all this work has saved hundreds of thousands of e-waste from being prematurely recycled, or worse, sent to landfill. But all of this is dependent on donation. And so I'm very grateful to the support of the federal government, who provides 70% of our incoming computer assets, and other organizations, including BC Hydro, PI Financial Corp, Langara College, and Capilano University, who see benefit in reuse over recycling. And this supports learning opportunities, work experience, and promotes economic and environmental sustainability. At BC Tech, we're really excited about our future, and we want to do more to ensure that we all can have Education for Life. Paul McCartney and John Lennon said it best when they said, "I get by with a little help from my friends." And like most good things in life, we can't do it alone. So thank you very much to our donors and our partners for their contributions. Thank you very much to the schools and nonprofit groups who utilize our services. And thank you very much for your time and your hospitality here this morning.
Thank you, Miriam. Next, I'd like to introduce Chad Lehman. Chad is the Director of Development for the Neil Squire Society. The Neil Squire Society offers programming across Canada for people with physical disabilities to use technology to find employment. Chad is also a volunteer organizer of Net Squared Vancouver, which holds free workshops for nonprofits to better use technology to further their mission statement. He's also a father of 2 young twins and most likely to get injured while playing sports.
Thank you very much. How's it going, guys? So I work for a nonprofit in Burnaby called the Neil Squire Society. So I thought I'd tell you a couple stories about how we're a benefiter of this program. So once upon a time, there was a fellow actually named Neil Squire. And he got into a car accident, and when he did, he broke his neck right at the C1, C2 level. But he lived from the accident. And, but because he was paralyzed, he couldn't move his legs, couldn't move his arms, and actually couldn't move his tongue. So he was unable to speak. So his cousin built the system where Neil could sip and puff on a tube, and was plugged into a Morse code machine, which took those dots or dashes, which was then plugged into a very state-of-the-art Apple IIe computer in 1984. So by Neil sipping and puffing on a tube, he could type on the screen, "I'm thirsty," or "It's Friday, I'm looking forward to the weekend." It gave him the opportunity to communicate. So that's how we got our start as a nonprofit almost 30 years ago. So we've been working with computers for schools the last couple of years, and what they've helped us do is to give people with disabilities the technology they need to move on to going back to school, to volunteering, or working. So I thought I'd give you one story of how this has worked. There was a pair of brothers that I've worked with, Michael and Brian Lowen, and they had a small business. They were a roofing company. And they were in a car accident. Their injury wasn't nearly as severe as Neil's, but because of the accident, they were unable to continue their work. They weren't able to do the physical work. So they were going to return back to school to find a new opportunity to work. And as you guys know, when you go back to school, there's a lot of computer use done. Now these were guys that were kind of hammers, nails, wrenches, they were a handyman. So when they were going back to school and using computers, they needed some help. So they began taking some computer tutoring through the Neil Squire Society, and through Computers for Schools, we were able to give them 2 computers in the home. So they each were able to have a computer to continue their studies, and they've just completed their first semester of university right now. So it's an example of how technology can be kept out of the landfill and given not just to students in schools, but to other members of our community that maybe need some assistance to get back and be more included. So I just thought I'd share the story. Thank Computers for Schools and Technology for Learning BC for the opportunity, and the Government of Canada for providing the funding to make these opportunities available to all of you students and to people with disabilities across the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chad. Well, for the closing remarks, I just would like to thank everyone for making the trek out here. I think this is the first time, probably in the last 2 weeks, where we have not seen a bear or two. So usually our students are very bear aware, so you haven't been greeted by a bear today, but you have been greeted by the benefactors of Computers for Schools, and you're seeing them. But there are another 590 students who all directly use the computers. We do have 3 computer labs and numerous computers in the classrooms that we use that are from Computers for Schools, and it's absolutely necessary in tight budget times for us to take advantage of that and to make it work for the school in the school setting. So I would like to thank Minister Moore and Miriam for their support, and everyone else who is involved on behalf of our students. And I can speak for a lot of the other schools in our district are very appreciative of this, and hopefully we can continue this relationship for quite some time as you see the direct manufacturers right in front of you. So thank you so much. I think next will be a photo opportunity up at the podium, and then Minister Moore is going to meet some of our students, and I think there'll be some more opportunities at that time, and he'll be able to mingle. And yeah, thank you.